Thank you for viewing our webinar sponsored by Simon's VIP Connect titled Autism in Vocational Rehab. My name is Bethany Smith-Packard, one of the study coordinators for Simon's VIP Connect, and I am joined by Dr. Scott Standifer, formerly with the Disability Policy and Studies Office at the University of Missouri, and now the founder of the Autism Works online project. During this presentation, Scott will discuss 4 autism employment projects that he finds exciting and innovative. Following the presentation, we invite you to submit any questions you have for Scott by emailing the Simon's VIP Connect coordinator at coordinator@simonsvipconnect.org. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Scott Standifer. Scott is a nationally known researcher on autism employment projects. He specializes in the insights on autism employment emerging from the scholarly literature, state vocational rehab agencies, private industry, small business startups, and advocacy groups. He is the author of Adult Autism and Employment, a guide for vocational rehabilitation professionals, and was the lead organizer of the Autism Works National Conference in St. Louis. He is also an autism employment consultant for the Missouri Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. Thanks for joining me, Scott. I'll let you go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Bethany. Thanks for having me back for this second session. If you joined us last time, we talked about what Vogue Rehab is, the kind of expectations there are, and the kind of opportunities there are for folks with autism. Now I want to talk to you about my favorite top autism employment projects. I think this is a really exciting time in the field of autism employment. Now, there are some gloomy statistics out there, and there are a lot of anxious people, and I understand that entirely. I'm not saying that's wrong, but there is a lot of really interesting experimentation, a lot of innovation starting to happen, a lot of people trying things and seeing what works, and some really cool ideas are starting to happen. So I want to talk to you about some of the ones that get me really excited and interested. So we're going to start off with the Walgreens distribution centers out of Anderson, South Carolina. Well, Anderson, South Carolina is where the first project was tried. Walgreens has 26 distribution centers across the country. And Randy Lewis, who was the vice president for supply chain distribution for Walgreens, has a son on the spectrum and decided, as long as we're building a new plant in Anderson, South Carolina, let's make it a place that my son Austin could work. And so it started out as an autism employment project. It quickly became a broader sort of disability-friendly, across disability employment projects, and that's how it gets talked about for the most part. But it was framed up around autism. I talked to the woman that, well, let me back up a second. They were starting new, so they were hiring an entirely new staff. So they quickly were able to get up to around 40% of their staffing having disabilities of some sort or another. The project has worked really, really well, and it's expanded to all the other distribution centers around the country. And other companies are now noticing this. There's been some formal studies showing that these individuals with disabilities have good productivity, lower health care costs, good safety records, low turnover. They're a really good investment. So this is making good business sense. And other companies are noticing this and starting to think about adopting this for themselves in the distribution centers and elsewhere. The Pepsi bottling company, Pepsi Beverages, has just gotten a big grant to start another project like this that will be across their whole production system. So Walgreens is really a cool place. Now, I talked to a woman that was helping run that project in Anderson, and I said, how many people with autism do you have in this staffing? And she said, I don't know. We don't ask. It doesn't matter. The supports are in place. If the individual needs the supports, they can just ask for them or just request them. We don't ask why. If they choose to tell us that they have autism or whatever disability, that's great, but it really doesn't matter. It's just part of the workplace culture. It's systemic to the culture, and autism just is another thing. We all have our things. We all have stuff we need supports on, and it's just how they do business in Anderson. So it's a cool project. It's a national effort. It's an integrated workforce. All these cool things that we look for in the Vogue Rehab world for really solid disability employment outcomes. Great project there. Randy Lewis has done a great service to the disability community in general, and it started with autism. So, number 3 on my list, Meticulon. This is actually in Canada, up in Calgary. You may have heard of a project out of Denmark called Specialisterna that started hiring folks with autism, mostly with high-functioning autism and Asperger's, to do software testing, debugging, database cleanup, those kind of IT jobs. And there's a number of companies that have started up in Europe and in the United States, sort of emulating, taking that same approach, and it's expanded somewhat into into SAP, the big software company. So Meticulon is doing this up in Calgary. It's a really great model, and that's great. But the reason I'm excited about Meticulon in particular is that they are moving beyond the software testing and IT model. They're starting to look at other industries in the Calgary area, particularly the oil industry, and ask about the jobs that have so much routine and so much attention to detail that neurotypical employees don't stay on that job very quickly. They can't very long. They can't get people to do the job. And folks with autism often are really quite good at those kinds of jobs. So it's a strengths-based model. This whole software testing IT approach is a strengths-based model, saying that people with autism can be better at some things, can be really ideal workers and an opportunity for businesses if they just understand the accommodations. So Meticulon is pushing this model in some new directions. It's going to be very exciting to see how things turn out. It's still only a year or so old, but boy, it's worth watching. Okay, number 2, Autism Delaware is it's an autism advocacy group in Delaware, and they've started doing employment stuff, and they've hooked up with a local raceway, gambling casino, hotel, entertainment, conferencing complex called Dover Downs. Now, if you think about this, all those operations under one umbrella, it really is like a whole cluster of different businesses operating in one place. So there's a lot of business of employment opportunities. Autism Delaware made a really good connection with Dover Downs, got a chance to go in there and survey and look for some opportunities, again, looking for the jobs that neurotypicals didn't do well, but people with autism might do well. They have an individual in there who is working at the racetrack side, helping with the data maintenance of the customer contact lists, so the changes in address and all that sort of stuff that was falling behind because nobody wanted to do it because it was boring and it was detailed and it was focused and all the things that people with autism can do well. They've got folks that are working in the catering division in the hotel area and the conferencing area because, again, it's a very routine, process-oriented job. And so the basic catering setup and takedown is a really nice fit. Also, they had some specialized equipment that needed maintenance. Usually, the various kinds of pots and bowls and stuff that needed to be polished and maintained. They're not used all the time, but they need to be in good shape. And it's again a very routine job back in the back space, and it works quite well for certain individuals. You always want to match up the features of the individual with the features of the job, but wow. So this has been going on for a couple of years now at Dover Downs, and it's gotten to where the managers of some of these smaller projects are coming up to these folks and asking, when do I get a chance to hire someone with autism into my area of the business? When do I get a chance to have one of these remarkable people work for me? That should be sending chills up and down your spine. That is what we're looking for, where the businesses are going to look for people with autism. Exciting development there. It's happening in a few other places around the world, around the country, but Dover Downs is one of the first places. Okay, number 1, my favorite employment project in the world for autism employment is Rising Tide Car Wash in Parkland, Florida. So started by a father and son team, John and Tom DeArey, and there's another son, Andrew, who is on the spectrum. And they've started this up on their own. These are both experienced entrepreneurs. They really know what they're doing in terms of business startups, and they have been going for about 2 years now. They started, proof of concept, and they got investors. They did the whole thing really quite well, and it's working out very nicely. They're hiring people from across the range of autism, and they market the quality of the services. Now, they're not gonna, they're not hiding the fact that most of their employees have autism, and they are marketing that some, but mostly they're saying, come here because it's a good job, it's a good quality service, not because it's charity, because these folks are paying close attention to the requirements of the service. They are sustaining the quality and sticking to the rules, and they're enthusiastic and friendly, and come here and get a good car wash. In a field where a project that hires 8 to 10 people is a big deal, these folks have got 36 people with autism working on their staff. They're planning to double that within a year. They're planning to double it again after that. They're expanding to new sites, and ultimately they want to be able to offer this out as a franchise so that other advocates or parents elsewhere around the country can start up their own franchise of Rising Tide. Now, that's a couple years off yet. Don't get all excited about it, but actually do get excited about it because this is a very new vision. These guys are really something. You can see the picture there. The guy in the red shirt is Tom DeArie. The gentleman at the back is John, the father. Andrew is there in the middle, and then their mom, who I have not had a chance to meet, and I don't remember her name, so I'm going to apologize in case they're listening to this. But what a great family. What a great service to the autism community. So these are some of my favorites, the ones that get me really excited, really interested. There are others. These are my top, but come to the website. Come to autismworksonline.com. Starting in about March 2015, we'll start to have more material, more profiles of other projects. This is an exciting time. Really cool things are starting to happen, and you can be a part of it. So I want to thank Bethany again for having me in to share this with you.
Thank you, Scott. It's really exciting to hear about these opportunities for individuals with autism, and really great to have these resources. Please remember to submit any questions you may have for Scott to the Simons VIP Connect coordinator at the contact information shown on the slide here. Thank you.